So I think this bears some note with this Chinese spray booth that I bought. The my original in my original video, I kind of talked about how I didn't think there was enough airflow through the booth itself, and that was true. That absolutely came to fruition. There's not enough flow through the booth as it came. Now, there's a couple ways I could fix that, and I talked about it. I talked about it in my comments to one of the other people that has one that he actually set up inside his shop. It's Trey B. Dippin. He does plastic coat on cars and a couple other different modifications. His video is very good because he explains what he did to his booth to make it more suitable for use inside of his shop. His shop's actually not big enough to accommodate the booth, so he actually built a really ingenious PVC frame on the inside of it, and I'm curious to see how that works out for him. I, on the other hand, I don't have a shop big enough to put this thing in a million years. So I'm out in my driveway, and I'm actually a little hobbled by the weather. Yesterday, I sprayed the base on this, and I had two major issues. One is it got ludicrously hot in here. I was sweating like a whore in church. I mean, it was terrible. I haven't sweat that much in years in a booth. So this did exactly what I thought it was going to do. The upside is I didn't have to put heat in here. The downside is I dripped sweat in the paint twice. But I fixed it. Luckily it was in the sealer. I caught myself. I wrapped the headband around my head. I was actually wearing a chute suit, and it's just like wearing a trash bag, and with a hood. So I just tucked paper towels. I mean, the only spot of me that was even exposed was right here, and the sweat was running down my eyes, off my glasses, and then onto what I was painting. Actually, it was coming off the hood too. So paper towel worked out pretty good. So what I want to talk about and what I want to show is what happens when you have a combination of issues. There's air leaks in the structure itself, which is totally expected. This is a sewn structure, not a welded structure. And when I say welded, I mean glued or whatever they do with PVC. It's some kind of like high frequency welding that provides for a totally airtight structure. So I'm going to move the camera down here real quick. And this is a problem that you have in regular spray booths also. If your booth's not tight, you're going to get this. So as you can see here, all this black shit, that's paint that's sticking to the booth. Now this isn't really, it's a problem. Because the paint's sticking to the walls of the booth and not going out the extractors. Now this is a tack rag from my failed cover the intake filters with tack rag experiment. But these I'm actually going to end up using, so I'm going to have to wipe the inside of the booth itself down. This is overspray. I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but this is just, it'll show up for sure on the tack rag. So this is overspray. Okay, dried overspray. It didn't flow out of the booth, it stuck to the walls. Now this happens in all spray booths, not just this blow-up one, but I think because of the way the booth is built, the construction of the booth, that it's a little bit more problematic because the low pressure area is created around the leaks. So basically what happens is it's leaking, there's low pressure, the paint sticks to it instead of going out the filters, which is another issue. There really just isn't enough airflow. There really isn't enough airflow coming out of these. Now these are supposed to be some kind of carbon filter, such things, I don't know. But these are going to get shit canned. Now this is the actual extractor. You can see where the holes are, okay, and then the dust. If I actually had pressure in here, which I don't actually have pressure in here right now, it captures the dirt, it captures the dust, and it does it relatively well. I had my wife, who smells a lot better than I do, both figuratively and literally, come outside while I was painting, and she said while it did smell, she didn't see too much, and the smell wasn't overwhelming, which is important. Now, I'm pretty close to my neighbors here, and I don't want them coming banging on my door next week and say, hey, what's all over my car? So I'm thinking what I might do is, I'm thinking I'm going to take this filter out, and you can see the overspray on my hands, and replace, and I'm going to install regular heater filters with a frame. I have to measure them. I haven't gotten that far yet this morning. I'm kind of waiting for traffic to die down before I go anywhere. But there needs to be better airflow through the booth, because when you saw what I took off of the sides of the booth, now that problem transferred itself to the truck also. So these, one of my other videos I talk about tack rags. The first tack rag I showed was just a cheap beeswax tack rag. These are expensive. These are DuPont, some other such things. These are pretty expensive. This one actually has gray on it because I used it earlier, but don't worry, it's going to have black on it. I actually wiped the hood off a little bit. You can see I have a nice little dry spot right here too. I'm going to actually, because I've got time, I'm going to denib the base coat, which I normally would never do. I just keep painting. You see all that black shit on there? That's fallout, for the sake of argument. That's overspray that landed back on the vehicle after I was finished spraying it. Now, a regular spray booth, a real downdraft booth, and even a crossflow or a semi-downdraft with proper ventilation, that shouldn't happen. Now, with base coat, it's not really a huge issue, because you can tack it off in between coats. But when it comes time to clear this, it's going to become a major issue. Yeah, there's some dirt in it. I got some dirt there. I'm trying to figure out exactly where some of the dirt's coming from. My tape job wasn't all that great. And I have a feeling that part of some of the dirt's coming from those low pressure areas. The dirt in a paint booth actually acts like a snowball. So you get one little tiny speck of dirt, and it all starts to glom together until it can no longer hold in suspension in the air, and then it falls down into the vehicle. I was wearing a chute suit. My gun was clean. I actually was wearing gloves, which I never wore gloves. I did, as I got older, I started to wear gloves because I realized how bad the paint was for you. Some of it could be coming from the plastic. The plastic is designed to stick. The paint's designed to stick to it, but every once in a while you just get so much on there it just comes off. In between coats, I was actually tacking off the plastic, and I wasn't getting a whole lot of overspray off of it, so I was pretty happy that way. I was a little concerned. This isn't auto body painter's plastic. This is just 3M blue painter's plastic, and it worked out. It didn't peel, but it's the painter stuff. It's not just polyethylene. Don't use polyethylene. Oh, and I cannot stress enough how fucking awful 3M blue tape is. It is the absolute worst shit in the world. Every single piece of I put on here, I had to double tape. So I had to put tape down, tape it, and then put tape to it. The blue painter's tape is so shitty that it won't even fucking stick to itself. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. The only thing it will stick to is itself. It wouldn't even stick to the adhesive side of the green 3M that I use. It's just awful, awful, awful. I'll never buy that again for a project like this. I'll break down and buy a paper machine. That's why I don't own a paper dispenser. And if you don't have a paper dispenser, it's a real pain in the ass to yeah. I'm not going to buy that again. I learned my lesson. So that's the roof. I'm going to have to get back up in the bed and wipe the roof off again. So basically it's because of the lack of airflow in here. Now I did, at the very end of the shoot, I sprayed the bed. And by doing that, I did create this overspray, but it's just not flowing out of the booth the way it needs to for overall of this size. If I was just doing a spot or the side of a car, this thing's great. It'd be perfect for that. But for an overall like this, it's just not quite flowing enough airflow. If I was going to be spraying a hood in here, well, I'm spraying a whole car in here, but if I was going to just be painting parts or panels, if I was spraying a hood, I would probably jerry rig some kind of rack to hang the hood to keep the overspray off of it. Or we'll see how the airflow is once I change the filters. I think changing the filters out is going to make a big difference with airflow. Another thing I need to show, and this is pretty important, is the amount of shit that's on the floor in here. And that's actually pretty problematic. I originally planned on putting canvas tarps on the floor and wetting the canvas tarps, and I may end up still doing that. I can't move the truck without fucking the tape job up. But I'm going to run over to Depot and I'm going to buy a rag mop, and I'm going to mop the floor because of this. This is all overspray. So this is overspray on the floor, and you can see it actually wipes up really nice. That is the one upside to this. That was an upside / downside is the overspray doesn't really want to stick all that well. The material is pretty slick, so it's not sticking hard. But then again, this is base coat too. So by the time it goes up in the air, it dries and lands back down pretty quickly with base coat. The clear, I'm curious about. So like I said, I'm going to go to Depot and buy a cheap, $20 or $12 rag mop, and I'm going to rag mop the whole inside of this. I'm probably going to try to do the walls and everything too. I got a weird weather issue going on here today. It's borderline too cold to paint, but if the sun was to come out, it would be fine in here. But it's supposed to rain, so let's see how it goes.